Have you ever wanted to quilt but thought you had to have really expensive equipment like a long arm? Well, you don't. It's nice, I will say that. I don't have one, but I can rent one. But I'm going to show you today how we're going to take that quilt top from part one and we're going to go ahead and make the quilt sandwich and then quilt it on the domestic sewing machine. So come along with me and I'll give you all the details. Now that I have my quilt top all done, I'm ready to start quilting. But before I do, I just thought I'd give you a look of the quilt top. I'm going to need a backing and some batting. What I chose was this heirloom cotton batting. I got it at Hobby Lobby for $16.99. It is the twin size. So it's 72 by 90. It is larger than my quilt top. My quilt top is 45 by 65. So it'll be perfect. And I'll even have to cut some of it down. And then here is my backing. Now the backing, if I were to cut the selvages off, it would be exactly the width. I need it to be a little bit bigger. Just because when you start quilting, everything kind of comes in and you lose some of that side yardage there. So what Fran and Donna had said to do is I got 3 yards and I'm going to fold it in half. Just like this. And I'm going to find my halfway point. And right there, I'm going to make a little snip with my scissors at that halfway point. And we should just be able to rip this. Okay, ready? Ready? All right. Okay, now we have 2 pieces. Now, I know that seems kind of strange, but since this was too narrow, we need the width to be this other size, which is 1.5 yards. So I'm going to lay it down on the floor so you can see the width here. This is the width of fabric, which is 42 inches. But what I need is this width, which is 1.5 yards. And then I'm going to take this piece and I'm going to lay it down selvage edge to selvage edge, and I will trim off that selvage. And this is a tossed fabric, so I don't have to worry about anything going a certain direction. All right, so we're going to do selvage to selvage. And I'm going to do this other side because I can see it just a little bit more. I'm not going to do 1/4 inch. I'm going to go ahead and stitch just a scant on the left side of that selvage. So I'm going to stitch just right here. So I think what I'm going to do is the inside of this toe is going to go right along the end of that selvage part. So I end up with about 3/4 inch of a seam allowance. Uh-oh, I hit the wrong button. Do you ever do that? It's okay. We're just going to come back here. I meant to do, they're right there together. I wanted to put that down. Okay, now we can keep going. So I'm just going to put my selvages together. Okay, so now you'll see that I have this big long piece and it's wide. So I have, it's a yard and a half wide and it's really long. It's about 80 inches long. So I have plenty to work with. So it didn't really matter that I was off here. So at this point, I'm going to go ahead and open up my seams and iron them, and then I'm ready to put my sandwich together. You're going to see I didn't get it exactly half, but it's fine because I don't need it. I'm going to be cutting that off anyway. So I'm just going to open this seam all the way down. All right, so the seams all opened up. Now we're ready to put our quilt sandwich together. All right, here's our big piece. And we're ready to put our quilt sandwich together. So I'm going to lay this on the floor with the right side to the floor. Now my husband just cleaned the floors, so they're all nice and clean. You can see we have this gigantic piece that's plenty big for our quilt top. We'll actually be cutting some of this down. The next part is our batting. So I'm going to go ahead and open the batting up. And I'm going to lay this down. And I don't need all of this. I probably could have put it on my table. It would have been easier. But if you don't have a large table, I have a couple of them. I just decided, we're just going to do it this way, in case you're doing it on the floor like I am right now. All right, so this is scraps I can use for something else. I'll just fold that up. Plus I have my table, I shortened it and it's all ready for Bible study tonight. So we're doing it on the floor. Okay, so now we're going to lay this on top. And yes, I'm kind of stepping on it. I'm going to lay that on top. And we're just going to lay all this out. And we're just going to straighten it out on all sides. Just so there's no wrinkles. We don't want any wrinkles. Okay. So at this point, I'm going to go ahead and put the quilt top on it. And then you'll see that we have plenty of space. So how I'm going to baste it is with the 505. It is my favorite. And so I'm just going to take up half of this fold it that way, and just going to go ahead and spray this down and then roll this back. Okay, so I did about a third, I guess. That's okay. we'll catch the other 2/3 on the other side. Now we're going to take this part Okay, now we're just going to spray this down. I would recommend a table. I didn't think this was going to be that bad, but man, it is hard on the floor. But it works. It was really the only place I had a large space. I could have done it on a bed. That would have probably been a little smarter. But I'm going to make it work. Okay, this part of the quilt sandwich is done. I do like the spray a whole lot better than pins. It just works best for me. Okay, now we're going to come to this side, and I'm going to roll up the bottom first to where I can feel that little hesitation. Okay. I think I'll take my shoes off. That way I'm not stepping all over it. All right. I'm just going to roll it down a little bit at a time. Now you wouldn't do this if you're going to put it on a long arm. You would just load up your long arm one layer at a time. Okay, so now this layer is not done yet. So we're going to go ahead and roll that up and do just a little at a time. All right, so we have our quilt sandwich all done, and now I just need to decide how I'm going to quilt it on the machine. I can go ahead and trim up some of this, but I think I'll just leave it for right now, and I'll trim it in the end. All right, so we're going to start quilting. Okay, I would recommend using a table. You know, it's hard. Seems like the older you are to get down on the floor and move around like that. So the next thing I need to decide is how I'm going to quilt it. So we've got our quilt sandwich. We have the backing and it was face down. I put the sandwich, I layered it with the batting and then the quilt top. So, and I sprayed it with my 505 temporary spray, which is my ultimate favorite. And so the next thing, I am going to quilt this on my domestic machine just to show you how to do that. Now I could take it to the long arm. I would not have put it in a sandwich like this. I would have just left it all the pieces because you load up the long arm piece by piece. I could do that, but it does cost quite a bit of money to do that. I can either pay somebody. I have a license at a local quilt shop where I can use the long arm. It ends up being about $65 an hour. It takes me close to an hour to get the thing set up, and it would take 2 to 2.5 hours to do a very fluid edge to edge long arm design. I could do that. I'm not. That's just, I don't want to spend the extra $200 to get it long armed. So I'm going to go ahead and do it on my domestic machine, and you can watch me through the whole step of the way. I've really been thinking on how I'm going to quilt this. At first, I thought I was just going to do some wavy lines through there. And then I started thinking I really want to accentuate the firecrackers right here. So what I think I'm going to do is I'm going to stitch in the ditch in all of my seam areas right here, and then maybe do something fun inside the firecracker base. Now I do want to add a special touch at the end with some machine embroidery for the 250. I haven't decided if I'm going to do it on the front or if I'm going to do just kind of an applique on the back. So I'll deal with that once I have this all quilted. I'm going to do it on my domestic machine. I have some special quilting thread that I bought at Hobby Lobby. It wasn't that expensive. I think it was $1.99. And I'm just going to keep it simple. I'm just going to do a cream color thread. I'm going to find a stitch in the ditch presser foot in my stash to see if I have one. If not, I may run to the store. My local quilt shop sells Pfaff items, and I really just I want it to get down inside of the seam. I could do it on the outside. Um, there's just so many possibilities that my mind is just kind of exploding at the moment. So I'm going to think about it a little bit more. But the reason why I was thinking of the stitch in the ditch is because of this narrow strip right here. That's like I think it's a 1 inch. And then I have this large one. So I will go ahead and stitch on the edge all the way around just to secure it. And oh boy, I got a lot of stitching ahead of me. But I can do it. I think I'm going to trim down a little bit here just to relieve a lot of the excess in the sewing machine area. And so I'm going to trim that up. I'm going to see if I have the right attachment. If not, I'm going to run to the store and get that, and then we'll start quilting. All right, so I'm on my way to my local quilt shop. I looked through my stash and I didn't have any stitch in the ditch that was going to work with my machine. So I'm going to head on over there, and once I get what I need, then I can come home and start quilting. I just got back from my local quilt shop and I got 2 new presser feet for this machine. I have a Passport 3.0 and it's by Pfaff. So I got the stitch in the ditch, which is going to help me with my quilting. And then I got this bi-level top stitch foot. And this is going to be really helpful when I'm putting on my binding, because I'm going to have 2 different levels and it should top stitch beautifully going through there. So I'm excited. I've never used this one, and I'm excited to use that on the binding. But for today, once I wind a few of my bobbins just to have them on hand, I'm going to put this on my machine and then start quilting. Now you can see I'm stitching in the ditch, and the center metal piece of that foot is right in that ditch. It's the seam. And I'm just going to stitch all the way down each of those long seams. Now on the Friendship Star block, I did just do an X, and then I went ahead and I decided not to do anything except the machine embroidery in the firecracker bases. So I'm just going to take some time and stitch everything down, trim up off my threads, and we should be done in a few hours. So we have it all quilted. I went ahead and just did stitch in the ditch. Super simple. It does help having the stitch in the ditch foot. I will say that. And so I did that along all of these long pieces. And in here where the friendship star is, I just did an X. Now I'm not going to, I made a decision not to do anything inside that firecracker base. I could like do a meander, but I decided not to because in the next video, I'm going to take two of them and I'm going to machine embroider something right down. So you'll have to come to part 3 to see what I've done. So this is all done and it's ready to be trimmed. So the next thing I'm going to do, we're going to start out in the next video is we're going to trim our quilt and then finish it with the binding and our machine embroidery item. So let me know what you think, and if you followed along, I'd love to see what you're doing.